Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on Peekage's Fireside Chat, where we, of course, discuss trends in brand marketing. Today, I am so excited to have with us Makoto Lokting. He is the Director of Field Marketing at Ellenos, and today he'll be discussing some of the changes Ellenos has made over the last year in terms of product launches, in terms of their brand sampling, etc. And he'll also be giving, of course, advice to any emerging brands. And before we get started, Makoto, why don't you go ahead and tell us some details around your background?
Awesome. Yeah, Edishon, thank you very much for having me here. Really excited to just chat along our fireside. So my name is Makoto Lokting. I've been in sort of CPG, food and beverage, experiential / field marketing for, going on like 15 years now. Currently the director of field marketing, like you mentioned, with Ellenos Greek yogurt. It is a small, hyper premium yogurt based up in Federal Way, Washington. And I lead our entire field marketing program. We've got great distribution up and down the West Coast. We got into Texas, late 2019. And then with COVID, we were planning a national distribution to kind of hit the brakes, or at least lightly tap the brakes, and are now focusing more on the West Coast as we develop our East Coast distribution. Prior to this, I was with Coca-Cola for about 6 years, mostly with Honest Tea. Prior to that, Vitamin Water. Oh, and in between here and there, I was also a national field marketing manager with Dang Foods.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, just an incredible background. I can only imagine all the changes that you've seen in the last 15 years. But let's talk about the last year in terms of field marketing. What has had to change, what needed to change, et cetera?
Yeah. Field marketing over the last year has changed greatly. I mean, I think if you look at what Ellenos and my thought process on field marketing was in early 2020, we were very much a traditional field marketing program. We were doing the in-store samplings. We were doing, push to purchase in retail, building relationships with dairy managers and store managers, going to events, just getting people to try the product. And it's such an incredible product. It's hand strained. It's a 5-day process. You can just taste the difference between this and a lot of the other kind of like big consumer yogurts out there. But anyways, digressing back to how we've changed, it's been drastic. I think we went from your very traditional marketing to a very local focused micro influencer program. We're really building a lot of relationships with people who like to talk about brands, people who like to share about products that they love. And it's easy to fall in love with this one. And then we're still doing a lot of like retail help. We're merchandising in store. And we're just building like community love, whether that's, kind of surprise and delight with products in stores, in businesses that are close to stores that were available. Or if it's just building relationships with people who influence others in their community. It doesn't have to be social, could be just, the PTA president, somebody like that who likes to talk to the people about products and things that they're excited about.
That's so cool. I love that you said that, like a community of love and really connecting with people and doing that. And I think that's what a lot of brands are going for these days, but they don't know how to do it exactly. And especially in the early stages, could you talk about maybe some of the strategies behind that and how you were able to have success with it?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really interesting question. I think coming into it, we didn't know, and there's maybe some trial by error or fire. And I think we spend a lot of time researching, finding the right people on social media to connect with, knowing what they're talking about, knowing who they're partnering with, really getting into the nitty gritty of who they are and what they're saying before we even approach them. And then we try to keep it as organic as possible. It's like, hey, love your content, really like what you're doing, A, B, or C. Would you like to try some Ellenos? We don't want it to be like a big, hard partnership. We're trying to keep this all very local, truthfully, on a relatively small budget. So we're not paying our influencers. These are just people who have tried the product and love it so much they want to share it with others. And there's a ton of companies you can go out and partner with and do this, but it doesn't feel as authentic. This is really a a system and a relationship that is you sharing something that you're excited about and them doing the same.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And with a product like yours, it's one of those products where you taste it and there's that delight factor. There's that immediate sense of like, oh my gosh, yeah. And there's no way to really replicate that. And so some of the changes that you're making are really needed. And you know, a lot of folks really are interested in making some of those changes themselves, but don't know exactly their best approach or how to optimize it really. One thing, you know, I think may be really helpful to hear is how you dealt with managing, you know, competition. You know, there's so many brands out there that are trying to accomplish what you are. And there's, you know, a lot of yogurt brands out there or similar brands, you know, in the health food industry or health food category. How has your strategy changed around competition?
That's a great question. It's kind of interesting because, like, I would agree that there's a lot of competition out there, specifically consumer packaged goods, specifically food and beverage, trying to build that sort of that messaging and that community. Within yogurt, I don't see it a ton. That's what's really interesting about Ellenos to me is like we are trying to like build this iconic brand in the yogurt space, and there's some really impressive brands out there. I would say Chobani obviously is kind of doing that, but I don't see them doing it at the level that we are. They're doing it at like these, 1 million miles up in the sky, and they're huge brands. We're very local, very, very small. So I mean, I think that we are kind of just defining ourselves. I don't know if we're pivoting too much because of the competition. Yes, we see what they're doing, and yes, we see where they're having successes, but I'm assuming they're seeing where we're having those successes ourselves. And I think it's really just how have we defined who our target demographic is, and how do we continuously approach them in an authentic manner. And we're doing a very good job with that with our field marketing managers and coordinators that are across our core markets.
Very cool. Very cool. No, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really agree. Like differentiating yourself like that is awesome, especially like you mentioned Chobani, you're just a different brand. Like it's a different brand, it's for a different target consumer, such and such. One thing that I'd love to hear more about is, product trials and building trials and how has that evolved for you or changed in the last year, with all the things that you mentioned. And what can other brands do in this climate that we're, living in to really optimize their product trials?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think a year ago, product trial was a totally different thing, right? It was you're in a store, somebody's there sampling, you engage, you educate, you excite. And we had a fantastic team doing this. I mean, we were doing tons of demos, seeing huge ROI on these interactions, and building a lot of brand love just through that one sample. Ellenos has this great storyline. We're sort of this culmination of two families. One, a Greek-Australian family that was doing yogurt for generations, and they had started some yogurt companies out in Australia. The other family from the Pacific Northwest, they found this Australian yogurt as the wife was a flight attendant at the time and was like literally freezing yogurt, bringing it back to the United States. Her and her husband were just devouring it, sharing it with friends. They approached the Australians and were like, you guys need to bring this to Seattle. And they were like, no, we're doing this Australian thing. 10 years later, the family here in the Pacific Northwest ends up buying a produce stand in the Pike Place Market, iconic Seattle location right across from the giant neon sign, doing this produce stand. The Australians show up one day and we're like, we're ready to do this. And so came Ellenos. And long story short, like our sampling, our trials was really reenacting that experience that you have today when you go down to the Pike Place Market. It's this gorgeous gelateria type of experience. It's like sampling ice cream. But it's yogurt. It's just like really thick, beautiful yogurt. And so our demos were incredibly engaging. People came up and, we have some Pike Place, maybe paraphernalia or something that kind of reminiscent of that, our scoop shop, and they just connected immediately. And so I think we've lost that this year in terms of how do you gain trial, but we found other avenues. I think social media, people are looking at their phones more than they used to be. in my opinion, influencers understand, or micro influencers really, it's what my team works with. I mean, they understand the gamut. They're excited to partner with a new brand. They're excited to partner with somebody who's in the food category, who's got something that's hyper premium. And while I wouldn't say we're an exclusive brand, it's kind of hard to find. So it makes us a little exclusive, right? Like we want to be very inclusive, but right now our distribution isn't quite there. So, trial, it comes from a bunch of different places, but I think right now we're really just hoping to pick people's brains, whether that, or get into people's minds, whether that's through social media, or if it's, just a surprise and delight moment. That's ideal. We're doing a lot in terms of, coupons and maybe some like digital demos and such, but, and those are great to kind of like open that door, but it's hard to tell if you're really building that brand love like you do with that one-on-one connection.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely hear what you're saying. We hear it all the time, at Peekage, and it is irreplaceable, in some ways, being able to get your story. And I loved what you said. Oh my gosh, about the yogurt and the Australians. That's a fantastic story behind the brand. I love it. And it's important to get that story out there. Like, I just learned something new, you know what I mean? So, and that's very cool. And, when I'm eating Ellenos now, I'll probably think about that. And it's nice, to have that behind it. And a lot of times, brands don't know how to do that. And one thing they're coming to us a lot with is product launches. A lot of times there was so much of this going on behind product launches and the excitement, and what would you say to that? So what type of advice would you give brands for product launches in this new world?
Yeah, that is it's a good question. I mean, I think what we're seeing is one, you got to make sure your product's correct, right? Try it again, try it a third time just for fun. We do a lot of what's great about Ellenos, we have the scoop shop down in Pike Place, so we can kind of pre-launch before we launch it in other markets in our like pre-pack. So we'll trial something, whether that's a brownie batter, which is our new seasonal right now, or limited edition flavor. One of our best-selling SKUs down at the Pike Place Market scoop shop was pumpkin pie, which we figured out a way to kind of like put it in a cup, and now that's our fall limited edition every year, and it's got a cult following. So I think you've got to get people to try it first, just to make sure you're hitting on all the right markers. So that's big. And then just like knowing your competition and communication. I think that's super vital, especially as you get into new accounts, as you gain new distribution. There's going to be things that get dropped. There's going to be issues, whether that's, distributor kind of not bringing it that last mile or whatever happens. So it's just keeping that communication open with your sales counterparts, your customers, and just your team in general, because you're going to have issues show up. I think that's my big advice, is just, make sure everybody's on board.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Of course. Absolutely. And do you think brands should, utilize, your early incentives, things like that, to promote their brand, giveaways? What are your feelings on those type of things?
I think it depends on like where the brand is in its growth stage, right? Like at Ellenos, not that we're huge by any means, but I don't think we're not doing a lot of giveaways. We do some partnerships on social media. When I was with Dang Foods, we were very small. I think the team at that time was like 10 or 11 people. So we were building these relationships, partnering, doing kind of like co-giveaways with other like-minded brands. And, we saw that interaction or engagement on social media increase. We saw more likes, we saw more followers, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a great way to kind of open that door and build your brand awareness. Does it build brand love? I think it leads to that. I think you'll probably get a lot of people that are just liking for the sake of liking, or trying just because they're getting a deal. But if you've got a great product, they'll probably buy you again, right? That's the goal, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it really comes into play, is, then it showcases how good your product really is and how much people really like it at the end of the day.
Exactly. And hopefully they're like, okay, well, I got it for 50 cents less last time, but I'm willing to invest that 50 cents now, or participate in some kind of giveaways or other online things that, we don't do so much at Ellenos again, but other brands that I've worked with in the past definitely leaned into that. And you can see some rewards pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's very interesting because I've seen brands on both ends of the spectrum that love giveaways, that do them all the time and get so much social media attention and everything. And then other brands that feel that there's almost a giveaway fatigue going on. There's almost and I've heard that phrase used a little bit now from a lot of brands that I've talked to. What would you say about that? What is your opinion
on that? I think it makes sense at the right time and right place. And it definitely has to be, if it's a giveaway with a micro influencer or an influencer, it's got to be the right person. And I think it's got to be definitely the right partner if it's a like-minded brand. There's a lot of, you got to really do your research and due diligence to make sure, they haven't done anything in the past that could be regrettable to your brand or vice versa. And so
yes.
I think there's just there could be some risk there. At the end of the day, I mean, I don't manage our social media. I manage our field marketing, and our social team and brand manager, she prefers to kind of keep it Ellenos focused. And that's what we focus on, is just the beauty of our yogurt, right? Like, I mean, it's a labor of love that we put into every cup. And so I think that's what we want to strive to communicate, is like, this is what you should be paying attention to, is this like glorious yogurt that is unmatched by anybody else out there, in flavor, texture, and all those things.
Very cool. Very cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah, there's so many interesting things going on right now. And I do agree a lot with what you're saying. And Ellenos has been just amazing in creating awareness. And that's something that comes up all the time with younger brands. And, we've talked about this a little. There's so much noise out there. There's so much noise on social media, on people trying different things, people experimenting. And one thing brands struggle with is, how do you stand out from all the noise in the early stages and before people know who you are and why should I try this and all those things? What would you say to brands in those positions?
I think you just got to get out there, right? I mean, you got to battle that noise. It's difficult. Yeah. I think when you look at field marketing specifically, traditionally it was so focused at in-store sampling, and now you got to reinvent that with COVID. I mean, I think what's great is we're seeing some new markets, or maybe not new markets, but old markets opening back up. They're loosening the restrictions in Texas, which is awesome. We're hoping to see that in California soon. I mean, fingers crossed, but who knows? California goes back and forth every day, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're right there in the thick of things. So, it's hard though. It's hard. There is so much noise out there. I don't really have like a golden ticket to it. It's just keep going, keep talking to people, find your demographic, find the people that are excited to chat about your product. And that's a lot of work, but once you find it, one person will tell one person who will tell another person, and it's a wildfire, right? You just got to get that spark.
In my opinion, I think you nailed it. Like, I think that's what it is. Yeah. Building that small brand first, bringing that the advocacy first, and the referrals. There's nothing like somebody saying, "Oh my gosh, you have to try this." If a friend says that to me, I'm going to be like, "What is this? Yeah, I want to give it a shot." Yeah, of course. Yeah. Versus seeing an ad. So oh my gosh, yeah. Go ahead.
Totally. And it's not even, and it's the friend, but it's also like the dairy manager and the grocery manager, and talk to them, educate them about your product. They've got thousands of SKUs sitting there on shelf. Make sure you stand out to them, because the next time somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I've been eating Yoplait for the last 3 years, but I want to try something different. What should I try?" If you just engage with them, gave them a little hat, talk to them like a person, they'll probably chat up about Ellenos or whomever you're working with. So I think that's also a great resource that new brands should be really leveraging and leaning in on.
Thank you for that, because honestly, it's funny because there is so much to it. It is a tremendous amount of work. It is tremendously competitive, but you broke it down simplistically. Like, it's really about just connecting with people and being real and getting out there and totally. All those things that you said are simple in concept, but execution and then the hard work comes behind that, of course, as well. And then lastly. Yeah, of course. And then lastly, one thing I'd like to touch on is, of course, things are changing. One thing that we've seen at Peekage is folks are saying even after the pandemic is over half of them won't try an in-store sample or food sample ever again. even after COVID and all this is over. So anything you can say to how things you see are going to change permanently or maybe slowly transition?
Yeah, I actually haven't heard that stat, so that's kind of a surprise to me. I think that for us, we'll keep doing TPRs. I think we'll continue to use couponing as sort of a driver. And then the other piece, I think, and we're doing this already, is full unit samples and just getting people to try it. And I mean, it's expensive. It's very, very pricey. But I think if we break down and find our ideal demographic and the right person to talk to, then that ROI is a little bit better than just the mass web that you could be doing in like very traditional field marketing, or what I was doing, a few years ago. Depending on the brand, you're just handing out product at some point. We're very strategic about who we're talking to, who we're giving that, $2.50 yogurt to. Because otherwise you'll just blow through your budget and have no product. So that's never good.
Nope, that's never good. Absolutely. Okay, perfect. Well, those were the things that I wanted to go over. Thank you so much for joining me on this Fireside Chat. This has been excellent. I really appreciate your time. I know the audience is going to definitely get some valuable insight here, and I couldn't thank you enough. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you much for having me on. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.